But the first thing we're going to do this morning is go take a look at the tourist center, which is straight in front of me here. I'm going to flip this around. So this museum is really interesting. There's a couple of different video presentations. They have 4 different parts to this museum, each for a different environment here on the archipelago. This first section we're in here is in the marine environment, and I'm going to flip this around so you can kind of have a look at it yourself. So they have information on, you know, different animals, different wildlife, you know, lots of different information. It is only in French, however, so if you don't understand French, make sure you have like Google Translate with you, perhaps, which should help things. The video that I just saw actually had English subtitles. What's also interesting here is that they have different displays, some of the different animals, deep sea scallop, for example, those types of things. And you can actually put your hand inside if you want to feel what those types of things are like as well. Great for kids, obviously. So we're here now in the coastal and dune environment section, which looks at the different birds, the different ways they are trying to maintain the sea dunes here on the archipelago. Some of the different information with some of the different seals and other animals that are here, and some of the conservation efforts that they're trying to use to maintain things here for the future, and some of the different Arctic birds and stuff that are around. This is giving an example of how they're trying to protect some of the dunes through some of the different techniques like rock filling, dune fences, eelgrass, coconut fibers. Obviously here with nature and tourism being such an important part of the area, you want to try and maintain that as best you can. This third section is bogs and freshwater environment. So here in the summertime, the freshwater environment really comes alive. And here on the archipelago, you see a lot of freshwater animals and plants and insects and things that you wouldn't expect, maybe, given its location out in the ocean. Sport fishing, quite popular here as well. And the fourth and final section here is the forest environment. So again, this is looking at the different aspects of the woodlands that are here on the islands. Some of the boreal forest, some of the birds that are resident here all year round, hawks, falcons, and then the mammals, so Arctic rabbits and red fox and deer. The red fox is the only terrestrial carnivore on the archipelago. You can see a picture of him there. So despite the towns of St. Pierre and Miquelon town both looking, you know, quite densely packed, considering their size and population and all those sorts of things, there's tons of nature here to come and see. This place is well known for nature walks, hiking, whale watching, all those types of things. So there's lots of great opportunities here to come and see all those types of things, especially here, again, in the summer times. It's always sort of the peak time. They have these little sound booths that if you sit in, you can hear the nature sounds of each of the 4 environments. So for now, I'm just going to go for a little walk, as it's still pretty early in the morning. I've already had a coffee, which was good, so that sort of helped wake me up a little bit. There is a local boulangerie store right here, which I may come back to in a little bit. But let's start off by going this way for a little walk. So the information on the islands was really interesting in the museum. it really showcased how nice this place is here in the summertime when it's warm, and how much, you know, wildlife there is and different things to see and do. So I really recommend it. I've only been here for a couple of hours, and I can already see that if you're an outdoor person or like, you know, nature and nature walks, this is definitely the place for you. One of the things I learned in the video that was on in the museum was talking about some of the wildlife that's here. The only native mammal to the island is apparently the red fox. So in 1958, they introduced 4 mating pairs of deer to the island from New Brunswick in Canada. And through the video presentation, it talked about how using conservation and techniques working with the hunting community and so forth here, that they've had a pretty good success with maintaining a deer population on the island. That's the ferry dock there where we came in earlier, and town is just over sort of that distance. I just came down for a walk down to the waterfront here. I'm just outside the museum here for the Mi'kmaq and St. Pierre Miquelon, and it's really interesting. There's a couple of signs outside here, both in French and English, talking about the historical background of the indigenous population here on the islands, long before discovered by the French in the 1500s. So there's clear evidence based on documentation that Jacques Cartier took control of the island in 1536 for the French, and then over the years, because the region was so coveted by the English, it exchanged hands several times. Between 1536 and 1713, when the English took over, and then successive treaties over the following 100 years or so resulted in the islands being transferred between the French and English 7 times in total, before finally in 1815 becoming a French territory permanently. At the end of the 20th century, archaeological excavations revealed that Indigenous and Eskimo were here as long ago as 3,000 years ago. So there was evidence through some of the artifacts that were found, such as stone knives from 800 to 100 BC. And there's also discussion here in a document from 1706 mentioning about 20 families of Mi'kmaq from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. And then more information followed from there, talking about in the late 1700s how there was still a group of Mi'kmaq. According to the documentation, there's a report in 1765 that Mi'kmaq tribe from Newfoundland actually came to St. Pierre Miquelon seeking provisions and assistance from the French due to mistreatment by the English in Newfoundland at the time. So there is a long history here of both Indigenous and English and French on these islands for thousands of years. Good afternoon. It is now about 1:30 in the afternoon on my day here in Miquelon, and yeah, so far it's been great. Very relaxing, very calm, except for the wind, but nothing I can do about that. But it's a beautiful sunny day, and when you get those little brief moments where the wind isn't up, yeah, it's great. No problems at all. Thankful for this rain jacket, however, I know. Behind me is Le Muscadin, one of the hundreds of ships that have shipwrecked here in St. Pierre Miquelon along this archipelago. I was looking at a map earlier at the museum that listed like hundreds and hundreds of boats that have washed ashore here in the last couple hundred years. There's signs here as well. You can see here. And then if I come over this side of the boat, more signs here as well. You can see that mark various points of shipwrecks along this coast. Just unbelievable number of boats over the years. The Alma Car in 1871, and the Melanie, which appears to have shipwrecked here twice, 1897 and then 1914. This one here, I don't know how long it's been here yet. If I figure out, I'll add it to the screen here below. But it looks to be a fairly intact boat. The fact that it's not on water, I suppose, is a problem. However, this is just one example of hundreds of different boats that have crashed here onto the shore. So in a little while, I'm actually starting to make my way back to the tourist office now. I'm heading out on a 3-hour tour of the islands. The two big islands here are Miquelon and La Glande. They're connected by basically a sandbar, for lack of a better term. So it'll be interesting to see some of the nature that's here, and hopefully some of the wildlife as well. All right, let's head back. So we're up here at the look-off point, up above the town of Miquelon, which you can see here is out on that little peninsula surrounded by water. I was just speaking with the guide, and he was talking about how they're discussing plans to move the entire town from that spot because they're worried about flooding and sea rise and things like that, which is a legitimate concern when you look at how low the town is. And when you pan over here to the right, there's that little area directly in front that's a bit of a hill. He says that they are planning to possibly move the town over to the top of this hill in the future to get away from the low water and the risk of additional flooding and, you know, water coming over. And that little hill there in front is called Le Chapeau, and it's actually a freshwater pond down in front of it there, right next to the ocean. Talking earlier about some of these signs and some of the shipwrecks. He just said there was approximately 400 shipwrecks around St. Pierre and Miquelon over the last few hundred years. Told you this was a beach in Florida, you could probably believe me, but we are actually here on the isthmus between the two islands, Miquelon and La Glande, and what a beach that's here. So we've been driving down in between the two islands here today, and we've just stopped here for a few minutes to have a look around, and this beach probably is, I don't know, 100 meters to the water. We've been talking quite a bit in the car as well about the erosion problems they're having here, and how the wind, the waves and everything else are washing everything away. You know, there's only one road that runs between the two islands, and it keeps getting washed out every winter now. So they've been really struggling to try and keep that going, because many of the locals end up over on this island with their summer cottages and campers and so forth, you know, to get away from the town itself. So they come down here. But this beach is just incredible, and there's literally nobody here. Me and some birds, and that's it. If you're looking for a spot to come for some nature and some quiet and some to get away from everything in life, this would be a good place to come. Come to St. Pierre Miquelon, take the ferry to Miquelon itself, and then either rent a car or hire somebody or bring your own vehicle and come over here, because this is just unbelievable, the scenery here. I mean, I know it's early in the year, but there's nobody here.